Next up is the Charleston. So again, as a rule, we're going to figure out the path of travel. Then we're going to identify what cones are critical for us when we're doing the math on what's important and where we need to set the bike up. And then we'll talk about the quickest way around this pattern. So, path of travel. This is a really kind of a glorified figure eight. And again, you're going to see figure eights in a lot of places. And where you don't see them, if you do some math, you'll see, I can kind of turn this into a figure eight. So this we're going to kind of think about like a figure eight. And before I go into the path of travel, I want to emphasize that the way you think through a pattern is important, because if you can think through a pattern in a way that links up sections, it'll be smoother. If you can walk through a pattern in your mind and connect those sections up, and like I talk about minimizing the amount of turning movements or lean angles, all those things help you effectively connect patterns together, both in your mind and on the path, okay? On that path of travel. So very important that we try to figure out, let's smooth this thing out, let's simplify it, and minimize the amount of work we have to do in it. All that's going to translate into a faster time, an easier run, a smoother run, and make memorization easier and all that stuff. So sometimes I've gotten to competitions late and I got to memorize the pattern fast, figure it out, and kind of breaking things down like this helps me quickly identify where I need to be, and then I can win. Okay, so in this case, we're going to drop in here. Again, for the sake of argument, I don't know where we came from here, so how I'm setting up, I'm just going to follow this path of travel since it's a standalone. I'm going to drop in here, swing up, 90-degree left, upper part of the figure eight, and then swing back down. So it is a fat figure eight, right? So what's cool about this pattern to me, which makes it challenging, is they've put enough cones in here. For example, in this portion of the figure eight, it's 3 wide. Dropping in, it's 3 wide, that you can't cheat it very easily. So of course, that's one of the things, the first thing I look at is, how can I cut this pattern down far smaller than they've identified it legally without cutting the course? In this case, they're kind of keeping us honest because they have a lot of cones in width ways while we're going through here, which I think is kind of cool. So that's the path of travel. Up, around, and down. Simple, right? Now we're going to talk about identifying the cones that are dangerous for us. So we've got this chute here, absolutely. Now as we're going up through here, you didn't identify this one. I agree. It's not really that critical. You identified these two. Maybe they're critical. It depends on how far we push out. For sake of argument, I'd say those are fine. This one's a definite, obvious, absolute. And then coming through here, this one, absolutely. You didn't identify the middle one. I agree. You will not hit this. If you don't hit this, you can't hit that. And even if you do hit that, you probably won't hit that. So I agree. And then this coming back around, absolutely. This one coming back around, probably not, but definitely coming in. So either way, that's an important cone. No, absolutely yes on your left-hand turn, dropping through here. And then this cone is still meaningful, I think, coming through. You didn't identify this one. I tend to agree with you. Now, if I was to get critical, this is Quinn Redeker walking through what cones really matter. Absolutely. I would probably say no on this. We're better than that. Coming through here, I would say maybe this one. It just really kind of depends on where we're going. But nonetheless, not huge. Okay, so let's talk about your path of travel versus my path of travel. So the first thing I'm going to do is figure out how to smooth this pattern out. I want to make this thing as smooth, as simple, all those cool things I said that we want to simplify it and make it easier to remember, less turning movements. So in this case here, and again, I'm getting nitpicky because you're getting better at this. If I'm coming through here, I'm going to want to get close to this cone, closer than you are. Why? Because if I'm leaned left, I can get as close as I want outside of hitting the base of this cone, and I'll be fine. And I want to be moved over quite a ways. So I'm going to be pushed out more. Why? because I'm going to be making a left. I don't want to hit this cone, but I want to carry speed. And if I'm if I'm not far enough over here, I'm not giving myself as much room as I can, because right now you're in the middle of the lane, and as you're coming up here, you're going to have to go slow and careful not to hit this cone. Most importantly, this is going to require you to push out a little bit before you can really crank your bike over, because you're going to hit that. So for me, pardon, I have a little cold. I'm going to want to push out here and drop in somewhere around here, okay? So I'm starting my turning movement back here. This is all nice and smooth, and really, if I'm practiced up, all of that, this right here, so say from here all the way down to here, somewhere around here, this is one turn, right? Nice and smooth. And that means I can kind of set my body up and set my bike up as I'm dropping in here from somewhere around here. Think about that. One smooth turn. And once I set myself here and I aim for this and aim for that, I don't even have to think about what I'm doing anymore. Math has already been done. Much smoother, much easier. Now, you have good lines. We're just going to smooth them out a little is really all we're doing. So in a case like this, I don't really need to drop down here. I can, but because we're just making a circle here, and yours is an oval, I don't really need to drop back down here. So in a case like this, what you're going to see for me, I'm going to keep turning somewhere around here, wherever that point is that I can transition to my right and not hit this cone. That's about where I'm going to start my turning movement. And my turning movement is going to be somewhere around here, and it's going to swing up, and I'm going to make more of a circle. Why am I making more of a circle? Because, and I know we talked about this briefly, and you said, well, the distance from over here to over here is so great that I would straighten my bike out and drag race. And I would say, okay, yeah, you could do that, but when we talk about upsetting the chassis of the motorcycle the least, that's when, so here's your chassis movements. You're coming through here, you're straightening out a little bit, and then you're turning some more. So there's different degrees of turning movement that you have in here. All that's going to shift your weight, shift your body, shift the way the suspension sets. If you look at my arc, it's much smoother. It's one idea, one job for the bike, and it's smoother and unsettles the chassis the least. And over time, I'm going to be able to push harder than this line here that you have, because this is choppy. Now, once you're here, this is a tight turn. What you have here is not so tight here, into a pretty tight turn here. So these are two different turning angles that you have versus one smooth turning angle. Now you're starting your right, and that's fine. This is a good turn, but now you're straightened up here and you're going straight. So now you've put suspension, you've moved your body around, you've got everything set in your right-hand turn. Now you unset it because now you're going straight, and now you've got to set it up again for this other U-turn. To me, that's a lot of math. That's a lot of setting and unsetting the bike, and I don't like that. It's slower, and it'll feel fast because you're doing a lot. You're setting up for your right. Once you're done with there, you're resetting the bike. You're straight, you're drag racing, you're slowing down, you're resetting your suspension, you're resetting your turn angle, your body position, and you drop back in. So you have a lot going on, and it feels fast, but it's not fast. This line that I have here is simple, right? It's just, we talk about a balloon, pretty simple turn. But what I'm trying to accomplish with this is one turn, set it, forget it, drop back in. So I've got one turn, two turns. Now I'm finishing this off. I have a lot of room between this cone and this cone. And where am I going? I'm going to be going back down here. Do I want to keep that turning movement and put myself up here just a little bit? Sure. So we can finish that turning movement off up here somewhere, and then start our turning movement out. All I'm really worried about coming out, and I like your line coming out, but again, what's my concern? It's this cone is really the only concern I have. And this cone, of course, but this one coming out. So coming out of this pattern, I'm just going to want to be careful of hitting that cone. And I'm out. So let's take a look, and again, pardon my drawing, it may end up being something more like that. But if you look, I executed this Charleston in 3 moves. Started my turn, smooth, 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 smooth. Started my turn, smooth, 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 smooth. Right here, started my left turn, smooth, 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 smooth. So I got through here in 3 moves. And is a straight line faster than a curve? Yes, it can be. But here's what you're not factoring, or what people don't tend to factor. They go, well, I'm going to straighten my bike up and go fast here. Well, okay, but you're losing the info that you're having to make a bigger adjustment here than I did, because I'm coming straight off of here. You've got multiple turning movements. Once I'm here and I'm set. This is all really smooth. So while this part just from here to here might be a faster segment for you, I promise you this segment for me and this segment for me is going to be faster. These are going to be real close, but I'm going to beat you here and I'm going to beat you here. And where it probably really looks like, and we're splitting, hundreds, is right where I'm really going to beat you is this area here, because these are the areas where you're transitioning from turning to straight to turning, and I'm not doing anything. So I'm going to flow better into my whole portion of this pattern better than you are. And that just really is an issue in a pattern like this. If this was really long, then maybe I would straighten up. I mean, if it's long enough that I can, the only reason straightening up is going to matter to me is if I can push the throttle harder, if I can drive the bike harder. If the lean angle is so great that it's not allowing me to get my throttle on because I'm going to slide the rear tire, then yeah, I'll want to straighten the bike up. If you look at dirt track or any other kind of racing like that, TT, they'll tell you sliding looks cool, but it's slower. You want to get the bike up and go fast to the next point. So I understand that. But in these sections here, if my lean angle isn't too great or the duration isn't too long, I'm just going to stay cranked over. Because again, the simplicity of it, the chassis upset issue, it's all smoother and better for me to just stay right here. If this is, from this point over here to this point over here, then probably, yeah, you're going to see me come through here, and you're going to probably see something more like that, where it looks, there is a section from here to here where the bike's straight up and down, but not in this case. And then I'm out. So think about that when you look at it. Again, we want to ask ourselves, in how few moves can we get through these patterns? How can we connect these sections so we make them less choppy? And I understand this is just a drawing, but it's important that you think through the way that I'm drawing this, that you think about it like that, because when you walk it, we're going to walk out here. We're going to walk to these outside cones, and we're going to look, and we're going to think about the flow from one section to the next. Flow, flow, flow. That's really, really important. It translates into speed.